there's a microphone right there to catch the last gurgles, and Technicolor to photograph the red swollen tongue.
Hey, Vern.
Future events such as these
Angling?
will affect you in the future.
Damn you, Rabbit! You smell like fucking piss!
You're watching The Projectors.
Hell yeah!
A film fan program discussing a variety of movies from history and around the world.
What do you think of this boner I got?
Featuring your hosts, Bob Sham.
When you're Scandinavian, flopping out your mommy milkers is nothing.
And Angela.
If they were just gun perverts, this would be fine.
Party!
Thank you for selecting The Projectors.
I want French pancakes like at IHOP.
And now a preview of our film discussion.
No doubt you'll send the chaos in the streets. We must make an example, or France will fall.
What would you do if this assignment of defense was transferred to you?
I promise you brilliant successes.
Everyone around here.
What is this costume you have on?
This is my uniform.
Everyone's so near.
I led the French victory at Toulon.
What is your name?
Napoleon.
As the course of my life just changed. Napoleon.
I'm destined for greatness. But those in power will only see me as a sword.
I suggest you take the throne as a king.
Holding on.
Shall we vote?
This vermin has held the world hostage with his egotism and his lack of simple good manners.
You think you're great. You are just a tiny little brute. There's nothing without me.
All of Europe is uniting forces against me.
What's the outcome of this if you don't succeed?
Your Majesty, we are discovered.
Good.
It's a trap!
I'm the first to admit when I make a mistake. I simply never do.
Hey, folks. We stay sicko in the sicko sessions. I think Angela's voice is probably even worse than it was. In the previous two recordings, she probably just shouldn't talk. But we got to knock these movies out. We got to get it done.
Yes.
What if you're like this for months?
I'm gonna whisper. I read that it can be up to 3 weeks.
Yeah. Well, we're doing the last 4 of Ridley Scott's films for this month's theme of 5 directors. So for this last month, we're picking through the last 4 movies of easily the most prolific of our directors, probably the more infamous, and yeah, he did a whole lot. Blade Runner, remember Blade Runner? He made that. He made a lot of movies. We pre-recorded Gladiator 2, which drops tomorrow, before we did anything this month. So the layout and format looks like the old way. I'm looking here. Let's look at his filmography. All right. Or let me just read it to you. Blade Runner, Legend. He made Legend. G.I. Jane, Thelma and Louise. 1492, the Columbus movie. Matchstick Men. Black Hawk Down. Which no one really grasped the proper lesson from Black Hawk Down. Don't go into other countries. You know? You got it?
I got it.
If you don't just go into other nations, that prevents your military members from dying.
It's not a hero story, it's a warning.
Yeah. I mean, just imagine reverse. Another country comes into your country. with Apaches in the name of peace, what the fuck are we going to do? It's easy. Just imagine it in reverse. What would you do? John McCain, you don't want to get tortured? Don't go to Vietnam. It's simple. Torture would be like 80% popular if we were being invaded. But we go into other... Anyway, I didn't mean to go off on this. American Gangster, which we already discussed. Prometheus, which I've been wanting to see. He's done a lot. And today, we hit up that historical epic from 2023, Napoleon, by Ridley Scott. Written by David Scarpa, starring Joaquin Phoenix, Vanessa Kirby, Tahar Rahim, Rupert Everett, Ben Miles, Matthew Needham. Cinematography, again, by Darius Waltsky. This is the last of the Waltsky cinematography. It's someone else tomorrow for Gladiator 2. This one cost $170 million, made $221. So all that bitching that Ridley Scott did over The Last Duel, his next two movies did fine. Like, settle down, Ridley. All right? You make so many movies. You've been so successful. I get some aspect of it because he was blaming the millennials, essentially. But millennials are a little too into their franchise fucking bullshit, though. It's true. I do think that. Like, once we figured out how to have our childhoods, now it's thrown at us over and over again. And I think a lot of it is fading back. But now we're dealing with the childhoods of people from, like, the 18th century with this film, Napoleon. Napoleon did not get as much hype as you might think a movie like this would get. I think there was some awards. There's always some award for something all the time. But I will say this movie I was more entertained by it than I thought I would be. But I think that's owed to the fact that, like, I could really stand to go up on my French history, especially Revolutionary era and after. It seems like it might be relevant considering the state of politics that we're in to understand that. I admit I only have a very vague outline, and it's thanks to that ABBA song I even know how Napoleon's military career ended. Beyond that, I knew he was really good at military tactics.
Did you know he was an emperor?
Yeah, I did know that he became emperor. But we'll get into that. Like, the culture of what an emperor is in post-revolutionary France, or at least what is claimed, is very interesting. But, of course, historical inaccuracies all week long here.
Did you know that he didn't have a French accent?
Yeah, I didn't know that he was American and then all the other French officers were, like, English. Robespierre? Well, English. I didn't know that. Of course, we saw that shit coming because a Napoleon movie all in French, it probably wouldn't have made $221 million. I don't think that's all American box office, but I thought it was a pretty nice looking movie overall, and it might benefit me personally to not be very knowledgeable about this era of French history, but this movie did make me want to learn more about it, so I think there's a success there in some way. But this movie has often been trotted out as maybe something that, by a lot of critics, as something that's kind of maybe a little entertaining but pretty messy. I thought the war scenes and everything like that looked really good.
Sometimes I was confused about who people were.
And which alliances were in place and which weren't.
Yes. That was a little confusing. But I really liked this.
Yeah. It's not a bad movie at all.
They balanced the war stuff, which I always glaze over a little bit.
Yeah.
Hand-to-hand combat.
It's the Josephine stuff that worked out for you.
They balanced the war with, like, real personal shit. And they had, like, honest conversations.
Is that a bad relationship or the perfect relationship? It was really hard to tell.
What do you want me to say? I want you to say that I am the most important thing in the world.
You are.
Say it!
You're the most important thing in my life, in the world.
And without me, you are nothing.
I'm nothing.
And you will do anything.
I'll do anything.
I think it was ultimately good.
Yeah, it seemed like, I mean, the love was real at the very least. They were both fucking crazy.
Say it. You are just a brute that is nothing without me.
I'm just a brute. It is nothing without you.
Yes, you are nothing without me or your mother.
And in tradition with the show, I am going to now claim that Napoleon probably had autism, Asperger's, but had the confidence that you often don't see a lot with that. He was good at military tactics, right? In the initial battle that we see, the siege of Toulon, he explains as a, well, it opens up with Marie Antoinette getting her head cut off, right? But then we go to the Battle of Toulon, and under Napoleon's advice and tactics, they successfully take this fort, which then takes the entire port city. And that whole scene I thought was really cool looking. But when that horse eats a fucking cannon right in the chest.
There are too many injured horses in this movie.
All week, injured horses.
I'm tired of animals getting hurt.
And so he, at the end of the battle, he pulls the cannonball out of the horse's chest and throws it at an officer and is like, send this to my mother.
It's his brother.
Brother, right.
His brother disappeared after he became an emperor.
He disappeared, eh? You read that?
No, but in the
movie. Oh, in the movie he did.
He was like grimacing at them as they walked down the aisle and we never saw him again.
I'm just looking at Wiki and I'm seeing a picture of Napoleon and a picture of Joaquin Phoenix. I guess it's whatever. It does seem particularly weird because I know enough of the outline of the history to know the measure of contention between the English and French empires for such a long time. That it's just funny to watch a movie where all these French people are speaking in English accents. I mean, I know we've seen that in movies our whole lives, but I don't know. We're not opposed to reading subtitles, but
seems more normal to at least have them do the accent.
Yeah, do it cartoony. Like in House of Gucci, they're tuning it up. I do think even then I would have accepted that over just straight British accent and an American Napoleon. So this is post-revolutionary France, and throughout this movie we see this popular man who would become a general, who would go on to become the emperor, in which he put the crown on his own head, which was very controversial.
I found the crown of France in the gutter. I picked it up with the tip of my sword and cleaned it and placed it atop my own head.
Well, what's interesting here is that the newspapers at the time, he's an emperor, right? But they're still publishing newspapers and shit, gossiping about his wife, what a harlot she is. It's even in terms of like high court royalty in post-revolutionary France, there's still this element of there's still an element of the population that they can't control. And I think, the French have, even to this day, kind of have this reputation of really getting out to the streets when there's something they perceive happening in politics. But their government seems not much different than ours in terms of a basic neoliberal government that shuts down any populism to the left and will literally hand it to the right before they ever allow, even if it wins under a popular vote, which happened fairly recently. But there's a system where the president assigns, even though the people picked a prime ministership to the left of Macron then gives it to a center right. The French people, they do take out to the street. Like if the French had the healthcare system we had, there would be CEOs floating in their rivers like on a weekly basis. Like there are some things that they will just step up for. But I guess they also, really like their swaggery leaders as well. In this movie, I just thought it was interesting how this guy is an emperor, is appointed by the Pope, by God, and appointed himself. And yet you cannot stop the tabloids. And he's reading the tabloids. And based on how the movie presents it, he can't really do anything about that. But when you think of like a classic emperor, a tabloid coming out talking about your wife, they're going to like boil them alive and shit, right? So it's just interesting what that means in a post-revolutionary France. That's part of what I'm more curious to learn about, the details and how this social structure worked after that point.
I thought it was interesting too that didn't seem to affect his men's respect for him.
Right. That is another interesting aspect of it as well. He was a popular guy. I mean, he was good at what he did. you know, when we see his battles go on, there's only so much. Like, well, I did know that Napoleon had issues walking into Russia in the dead of winter. I did know about that. I didn't know that the Russians burned Moscow.
Who set these fires? Your Majesty. They did. He'd rather burn his own city than negotiate with me. I didn't think he had the courage.
That's pretty fucking wild. But yeah, I would have just assumed no military history under my belt, no military experience whatsoever. You don't want to march infantry into St. Petersburg in the middle of winter. I think if you just threw that question out there, I'm going to say no.
He was advised not to.
Well, when his hubris picked up, that seems to be when he lost.
Well, from the beginning, he was like, I do things my way.
I actually heard a historian talk about this movie about a year ago. And one aspect is like, he wasn't too lost in the sauce of historical. Of course, this movie's full of historical inaccuracies, as we're going to get all week long. Yeah, what a shock. But one thing that I retained that he was talking about was that the way armaments were and the way gunpowder worked is that these battlefields, you wouldn't have been able to see shit because the gunpowder would have like fogged. It was like a man-made fog of gunpowder in all of these battles. So we can see these beautiful sets, all these like formations and these tactics, which is cool to watch. The reality, if this were that real battle in that real time, we would have had a hard time seeing any of this shit. It would have just been fogs of gunpowder just smothering these hills, you know? That obviously would have shifted their tactics as well. But the movie does succeed in making Napoleon look very impressive militarily, which is the thing we all know about Napoleon, right? That battle, I think they're somewhere in Austria, Eastern Europe somewhere, where they trick the Austrians into going out onto the ice, the Russians and the Austrians, and just start pelting this frozen lake with cannons, and they all start drowning after they get routed out and baited into the camp. Like it's this movie has a dad boner aspect to it, right? The war shit has a dad boner quality to it, and there's always going to be a part of me that actually loves shit like that. There's a dad boner deep inside of me, way deep in me, and I just can't help it. There's always going to be little bits and pieces of it in there, yeah. And maybe these dad boners nowadays may need to take a little pill, but there's no judgment. That happens to a lot of men. And you do whatever you do. You know, you don't go into denial. You do what you need to do your job as a dad with an erection. Okay? I don't know. Look, Angela's got laryngitis. We can't talk about every aspect of this 2 hour, 40-minute movie. But the stuff with Joaquin Phoenix and Vanessa Kirby as Josephine, I did think was a lot of fun. And that's another thing that this movie makes me want to learn more about. I don't know if the movie convinced me that everything I need to know about these characters is in this movie. I don't buy that for a second. But I think there's a success here in it increasing my curiosity for these characters. And Vanessa Kirby, I thought, looked real good in here.
She's going to be the Invisible Woman.
Oh, really? Oh, in the new Fantastic Four movie? She
hasn't done a lot of movies.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of intrigued by the upcoming Fantastic Four movie.
She's also the lady in Mission Impossible, these last couple, and she's going to be in the last one.
That's interesting to know, and I'm definitely curious about the new Fantastic Four movie. As an old school comics fan who was really into the history of that shit, I've always had a fondness for Fantastic Four. And Pedro Pascal will be Reed Richards, so he's in that.
I've never seen.
Yeah, well, the other ones are fucking awful.
I know, but I managed to avoid seeing the awful. I sound like a monster.
You didn't see that weird quasi-horror one that had I forget the dude. He's in Whiplash, the drummer movie. Oh
yeah, isn't Michael B. Jordan in one of them?
He's
Jessica.
He's in that one. He's in that one. Yeah, that one, like, that movie was confused as fuck. But I think I do want to see the new Fantastic Four movie when it comes out. I mean, it could suck. I don't know. I mean, a lot of these Marvel movies are just like, at this point, like military propaganda, you know? I am vaguely curious about the new Captain America movie, but that's just because there's always going to be, just like there's bits of dad boner in me, there's always going to be a little bit of comic nerd erection in me. That erection's a little more flaccid. It gets a little softer, quicker, but there's still a little bit of that in me too. But I'll probably just wait till it goes to streaming. But I think I want to see Fantastic Four in the theaters. And we're totally not talking about Napoleon right now. I want to see the James Gunn Superman one because I am James Gunn has a Superman movie. I think it's coming out this year.
I had no idea.
Yeah. I think it's great how you have no idea where it's like, but I go online and people are just with the worst clickbait saying nothing nonsense, talking about this shit over and over and over again, yet you somehow avoid it. Can you have my algorithm? You would hate it. You would hate my algorithm. What is on your algorithms? Pit bulls stuff?
Yeah, weight loss shit.
Oh yeah.
This like
throat soothing teas.
Should be.
You sound awful.
I sound like a monster. But yes. Lots of pit bulls. Unique animal pairings.
I get that too. When a turtle and a dog are best friends, or a dog and a bird. Like, I love that shit.
Because of stuff you send me.
Mm-hmm.
And things I send you. I now get really awkward. Like people dancing and stuff.
So it'll be like people with autism and Down syndrome dancing. Because that's what I like to send you. Because they're free and they're living their lives in freedom. That's why I send it to her. What are we? They've got it. They're happier than we'll ever be, you know? Napoleon.
My hair has been set. The way you like it. Oh, you filthy man. My hair has been set.
Beautiful was.
All right, come on then.
That was actually kind of fun. I will still say that I think Gladiator 2, which we'll discuss tomorrow, is the most fun from the whole week. But I did enjoy Napoleon a lot more than I thought I would.
Gladiator 2 is the most fun. I think this is the best movie.
So let's give it 1 through 5 each. Fuck it. We're in sicko mode. I think you know if you're into a movie like this. I do think the movie looks a lot better than I'm hearing people say about it. I think it does help that, you know, my knowledge. If I had a real detailed knowledge of this history, I might be a lot more nitpicky. But I'm just trying to have a good time at the movies. But I think this all settles down to a 3.5 for me.
I'm giving it a 4.
You really like this one. It's the Josephine stuff. That's what
really
you like.
Is. I've never seen that kind of balance in a movie like this.
I liked it when he's like joking with the kids on when he's exiled the last time.
And who burnt Moscow to the ground?
I don't know, sir.
I did.
I believe, sir, the Russians burnt it to get rid of the French.
Who told you that?
It's common knowledge, sir.
Go.
And then he flops. That's the end of the movie. He flops over fucking dead. Died of being a horse-eating baller. All right. Napoleon by Ridley Scott becomes one of our higher rankings this week at a 7.5, right alongside movies like Serendipity, Role Models, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, one of my favorite Thanksgiving movie, In Bruges, for a few dollars more, and Insomnia, the Norwegian, Swedish film, whatever. It's at least as good as those movies, if not better. Angela got a lot more out of the dad boner. I appreciated the dad boner aspects, but Angela was surprised at how good the dad boner felt when she sat in and watched this movie.
You know the other thing? Oh, I can talk a little bit. So let me just say, one of the things I really loved was it seemed like one of the more probably honest depictions of a relationship during that time. Relationships during that time, either like the women are just like never seen, or they're only there to fuck, or you don't see them like be romantic.
What you want an heir?
I want one now.
or
Yeah.
like horny for each other in that way once they're married. You
Mm.
know, like you see them like fucking other people.
This is a
but
bit
he
of-
really like crawled across the table and like pulled her under to fuck her. There's like dudes standing there.
It's a pretty horny movie.
It is a horny movie.
Yeah. Ridley's given us some not last duel, but Ridley's given us some horniness this week. So it's, he's taken the pills.
There's not really horny stuff in Gladiator too much, but let me just tell you, at any age, good or bad, Denzel can get it.
Yeah, that's true.
My man.
And I also think that Ridley should dress more like his brother when he was wearing those Ed Hardy shirts and shit. I think Ridley, to honor Tony, the late Tony Scott, Ridley should dress more like his brother did. Unless he's too pussy to do it. Napoleon, we give it a 7.5. Actually, probably a little higher. Slightly higher than the average, I believe. A lot of people kind of dismissed this one, but it was better than I thought it was going to be. That said, Gladiator 2 tomorrow. We've been telling you all week that it's a fun time at the movies. We saw it in the theater, so the layout of that video, if you watch it on YouTube, is like the previous method. Come back tomorrow for Gladiator 2, which I think did get some costuming nominations at the Oscars, so something like that.
Something like that.
But yeah, we will see what happens with all of that. And as soon as Angela's voice is better, we will talk about the Oscar nominations as well as our review of some movies we saw in 2024. We did see a lot of movies that we did not discuss for the show, but we will discuss them as soon as you get over that jitis, all right? But let's get out of here. Napoleon is a 7.5, and we will see you tomorrow.
Goodbye.
Thank you for watching The Projectors. Click the subscribe button if you haven't already done so. We are available on YouTube and podcast. You can also support the show by liking, leaving comments, reviewing, sharing, and never questioning Bob when he claims that certain characters in movies are like autism. We love you. Goodbye.
I tell you what I have waiting for you. It is a secret, and I will show you when you arrive. Come to me, Napoleon, and let's try this again.